Hello everyone, I'm Peter. Welcome to our space for true stories. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We will select the best comments to send to the original poster op of the real Reddit story. We hope your insights help them overcome their challenges. Thank you for being part of our community. Please sit back and enjoy today's story. And for letting you know I'm leaving you by sending you a post on the website you used to ignore me? Hello Stefan, maybe you'll finally listen for once. And if you're wondering whether you can rush home and stop me from doing this before I leave, it's already too late. I'm sending this after I've packed everything up in the car and left. Don't worry, I've spoken with the landlord and removed my name from the lease. I've also paid the rent for next month in advance. After that, you'll be on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I guess you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you're such a fantastic husband and father, right? Well, buddy, let me put it to you in a language you can understand. I'm 29, married to my 35-year-old husband for 5 years, and we've been together for almost 10 years. On paper, everything seems fine, but in reality, our marriage is a mess. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the very beginning, my MIL has been a nightmare. She's made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white and claimed it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticized me, from my cooking to my appearance. I will never forget the time she called me fat in front of everyone at a family gathering. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She's accidentally ruined my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap jewelry. She went out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he brushed it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving relationship advice to strangers, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's breasts on Reddit than talking to me. Literally. And you know, the last pair he rated wasn't a 4 out of 10. It was a 10 out of 10. Yep, he has all the time in the world for that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He forgets my birthday, our anniversary, even the simplest things like what I'm up to or what's important to me, but he's got a perfect memory for his work schedule and everything that matters to him. When we fight, he gets incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm just some acquaintance he can barely stand. And he never lifts a finger around the house. Dishes, laundry, cleaning, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional as long as he's got a job and his precious Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a baby girl. My MIL started making comments about how she'd need to shape this girl up and how she'd raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband I didn't want his mom having too much influence over our daughter, especially considering how she's treated me, he just laughed it off and said his mom meant well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that really broke me was when we were talking about future childcare, and my husband suggested his mom should watch our daughter while we're at work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially given how his mom has treated me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and told me to get over it because his mom would be a big part of our daughter's life whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes in corporal punishment. I've seen her smack my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one ever does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I've finally woken up to the reality of what's going on. If he won't stand up for me, how can I ever expect him to stand up for our child? I began to dread the idea of our daughter growing up in an environment where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't lift a finger to stop it. Oh, and did I mention he missed our first ultrasound? His mom needed him for some urgent task. Turns out, she needed her Wi-Fi fixed. Wi-Fi. He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in his life. So, I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into compliance anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you the best of luck in your future marriage, with your mom and the women on Reddit whose breasts you don't even deserve to rate. Am I the asshole for leaving my husband after years of neglect, letting his mother abuse me, and making me fear for the safety of our future daughter? Small update. Stefan saw this post. He's pissed because apparently one of you found him based on his breast ratings. He deleted his account. For whatever it's worth, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating details that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I'm not from South Carolina, I didn't move in with any other guy, and I haven't been sleeping around. New update. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading false claims. They're saying I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work, and that Stefan had 2 jobs to support me. They've even made up a story about a neighbor, someone they claim was a good friend of ours, saying I cheated and moved in with someone I supposedly had an affair with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we don't have any friends who are neighbors. I've never cheated on Stefan. I work, and I make slightly more than he does, just $1 more per hour. I suspect these claims are coming from either a troll brigade or Stefan's friends, trying to make me regret posting about this. I'm safe and with family, that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm working with my lawyer to ensure our safety, and that's all I can disclose at this time. For any women in my situation dealing with a lease, consult a professional lawyer who specializes in tenant rights. That's what I did. They can give you advice specific to your country or region. In my case, I was able to leave because Stefan and I had both signed the lease, and we had completed the minimum rental period. After a free consultation, I worked with my landlord, an elderly couple who were very understanding, to arrange my departure. So don't be afraid. Or, you can be afraid, but there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, make sure you check your credit. I did, and that's another issue I'm dealing with. As for recent developments, there isn't much new. Stefan is apparently desperate. He and my MIL have both been having separate meltdowns and launching smear campaigns. My MIL has been spreading false claims, including that I'm an unfit mother and that I've abandoned my responsibilities. I have no intention of responding to these claims publicly. I'm gathering all the evidence I have, especially since she has nothing to back up her accusations, but I have everything to back up mine. So no, Stefan, this won't be a he said, she said situation. He deleted his Reddit account, claiming it's because someone found him. But then he told me a bunch of people sent him death threats, which seems impossible and contradictory. He sent his friends to my post, and I think they've sent me some not-so-nice DMs and comments. Allegedly. When I tried talking to Stefan, he always made me feel like I was losing my mind. Anytime I brought up a concern or expressed my feelings, he would dismiss them, belittling my emotions and making me question myself. Like the time I came home to find out he'd invited someone over without telling me. When I brought it up, he insisted he had mentioned it earlier, even though I knew he hadn't. Another time, I planned a special meal and asked him for a specific dish, but he said I had asked for something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he would argue that I must have forgotten my own request. Stefan would also claim he had done tasks that I had actually done myself. For example, he'd insist he did the chores when I was the one who actually handled it. When I pointed this out, he'd dismiss my memory and swear he had done it. Even in conversations about our relationship, Stefan would frequently deny things he'd said or done. If I brought up issues I had with his mother's behavior, he would insist, "You've never mentioned that before, you're just being dramatic." It made me question whether I had ever really discussed these issues or if I was truly overreacting. At one point, I was so convinced I was losing my memory or developing early-onset schizophrenia that I started questioning my own sanity. I felt lost and confused, trying to separate reality from his version of events. I began documenting our interactions just to keep track of what was really happening. But Stefan always found a way to gaslight me, saying, "You're definitely remembering that wrong," even when I had clear proof to the contrary. Feeling powerless, I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a way he couldn't manipulate. I wanted to make sure there was a clear, unaltered record of what had happened. Posting about my experience was a critical step in reclaiming my voice and seeking support from others who might understand what I was going through. It was a way to control my narrative after feeling lost and doubting myself for so long. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time.